Good morning. My name is Jihan Yang, and today I will be giving my opinion on the topic of decolonized translation with a presentation entitled Translation for Whom? Let's start off by looking at this sentence. How would you translate this into English? As a Korean speaker, instantly you link the images that pops up to your head and understand the whole saying and the situation of the speaker inside the story all at once. Then how are we going to deliver the same process of reading and understanding this Korean saying into English? When we concentrate on the words itself and not the whole message and text relations that we need to deliver, it becomes a problem. Why? Because we cannot seem to find a perfect word that fits tara or sotukong. Then let's say we move on to plan B. We set our goal to at least sending the message of the saying. The saying simply means to be traumatized. There are English sayings that have the exact same meanings. For example, once bitten, twice shy, or a burnt child dreads the fire. But there is neither the cultural characteristic nor the unfamiliarity you find from reading novels by foreign authors when translated in this way. This kind of translation is considered as colonial translation. Of course, translating in this way would make it so easy for the translator to do his or her job, but what about the readers? And most of all, what about the writer who puts so much effort into finding the right word to create a whole work of literature? Now, back to the task we couldn't solve. How are we going to translate this sentence while preserving the cultural word selection and both satisfying the readers in English? This is when the two impulses of the translator collides. The political impulse, which is the urge to turn the minor language into the position of the major language. Putting the minor language's cultural characteristic is the priority in this case. The other impulse is the literature impulse. This means focusing on translating in a way English speakers will understand smoothly. Finding a negotiated point between these two impulses is what we need to do, and this kind of translation is called decolonized translation. So this, considering these two impulses, can be translated like this. You know the saying, the child who fears turtles will flinch at a manhole cover. While preserving the fact that this is a saying used in Korea, it changes the image of a sotukong into a much more understandable and imaginable object for English speakers, a manhole cover. The translator succeeded in both keeping the cultural originality of Korea and making sense for the English readers. This is a translation by Deborah Smith on the novel Kobar, translated as The Accusation, written by Pandi, an anonymous North Korean writer. This novel is filled with sayings and cultural metaphors comprising cultural and historical characteristics of North Korea. Smith's translation of Korean novels are considered to approach these texts in a cultural, anthropological way, in other words, in a decolonized way. So why is this way of translation and the attitude and the creativity of a translator, especially in literature, so important? A translator is not simply who copies a text into a different language, but who has the responsibility of bringing a work of literature and its joy and pleasure and message to a new audience. In order to do so, not only the full understanding of the text, but the writer itself and respect of cultural background is required. In a time when Korean culture, music, and films are becoming popular worldwide, language should be used as a method of message delivery and a way of introducing us to a much wider audience, not as a handicap. Conveying the content's full qualities while overcoming language barriers is a key task for translators, as well as Korea's cultural future. Fortunately, we are now living in a time of diversity where our cultural differences can be respected and people are even eager to learn. For example, a characteristic of Korean family names used for calling others can be a major headache for translators. However, due to the influence of K-pop, family names such as 오빠, 형, 언니, or 막내 is used and recognized by foreign fans. Simply reflecting these changes in the audience, subtitles, translations of books, and K-pop lyrics will lead to a much decolonized way of translation. In a scene in the Netflix series The Squid Game, the character Ali and Sang-woo changes how they call each other from formal to informal using the term 형. This shows how close they have become and how much they have believed in each other. Ali's way of calling Sang-woo this way intensifies the betrayal when later on in the story, Sang-woo leads Ali to death. Taking big leaps like this can be a risk. However, ignoring cultural differences and ways of writing does not make the task any easier. Understanding, interpreting, and editing the source of language with respect and sincerity, and at the same time, considering the target language's audience is a skill that needs to be learned and practiced.